Good evening, and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation's Public Information Meeting for Project 113-113, the replacement of Bridge 7104, Route 165 over an unnamed brook in Preston. My name is Brianna Rotacco, and I'm a project manager with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome everyone who's taken the time to tune in for tonight's presentation. We hope it will be informative and we're able to answer all questions and concerns, so by the time we're done, you'll have a better understanding of our project. Available to those joining us through Zoom is the option to view captions or subtitles. To turn on this feature, select the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen, then select Speaking Language, and then select the desired language. Before I get into the presentation and introduce the project team, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain tonight's format. Our presentation will last approximately 25 minutes and will include a description of the existing conditions, the purpose and need for the project, and our proposed design. Once the presentation is completed, we will host a live question and answer session. A recording of this presentation will be posted on DOT's YouTube channel after the event. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on Zoom and YouTube. We'd also greatly appreciate if you could fill out the voluntary post-meeting survey. The results of this survey will help us improve these public meetings going forward. You can find the survey at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT survey or by scanning the QR code on the screen. We would like you to know that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. The civil rights notice to the public is available at portal.ct.gov/dot/opportunity-and-business-development/title-vi. The links to both the civil rights flyer and the survey are located on the project webpage. This is the Title VI notice to the public in English. It describes the process to file a complaint with CTDOT. I will pause for a few moments so you have a chance to read the slide. And here's that same information in Spanish, so I'll pause again for a few moments so you have a chance to read the slide. You will have three means of communicating with us during the live question and answer session. The first is by sending an email to the project email address, which is dotproject0113-0113@ct.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. Please note that we will be checking for emails and voicemails periodically during the presentation so we can address your comments and answer your questions. Please also remember to leave contact information if you leave a voicemail so that we can reach out to you directly if for some reason we can't get back to you during the live question and answer session. You can ask questions or provide comments through April 30th, 2026, either by email or telephone. I will go over the third option, the Zoom Q&A function, next. This function is only available during tonight's live question and answer session. And a recording of tonight's entire presentation, including the live question and answer session, will be stored on the project webpage. The webpage can be found at portal.ct.gov/DOT Preston 0113-0113. Closed captioning, including non-English translations, will be available at that time. To ask a question or make a comment using the Zoom Q&A feature, click on the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. This will bring up the Zoom Q&A window, and you can type your question into the text box at the bottom. And once you've finished typing, you can hit send and the project team will then see your question. So on the screen, you will see your question and any other questions that have already been answered. But please note, though, you won't, even though you don't see questions, the project team may have other questions to respond to and will respond to all questions in the order they're received. I would now like to introduce the project team. On the top row with the Connecticut Department of Transportation is Derek Lassard, Division Chief of Bridges. To the left of Derek is Greg Funk, Principal Engineer of Consultant Bridge Design, Consultant Liaison Engineering Program, or the CLE program. Further to the left is Kathleen Erickson, Project Coordinator for the Division of Rights of Way. On the bottom row is myself, Brianna Ritacco, Supervising Engineer in the CLE program, and to my right is Susan Morneau, the Project Engineer with the CLE program. BL Companies is the Consultant Liaison Engineer for this project, or the CLE, and will work with CTDOT to provide project oversight throughout design and construction of the project. So Sean Ladotti is the project manager or program manager for BL, and his photo is the first on the top row, and to the right of him is Jennifer Usher. She's the program advisor, and she will be the MC for the Q&A session for tonight's presentation. And on the bottom row is Tom Beckman, the liaison engineer from BL. McFarland Johnson is the design consultant on the project. So on the left is Gene McCarthy, and he is the lead highway engineer, and David Cole is the lead bridge engineer. And thank you for bearing with me while I went over the ground rules. I'll now start getting into the project-specific information. So here's a map showing the project location. The arrow is pointing to bridge number 7104, which supports Route 165 over an unnamed brook. The structure is located approximately 1,580 feet west of Long Society Road. Here is an aerial image of the project. So the arrow again indicates the bridge location, and Route 165 is also known as the Shetucket Turnpike. Before we get into the technical portion of the presentation, we wanted to provide some definitions of the terminology you will hear throughout the presentation. So CTDOT refers to any culvert over 6 feet in diameter as a bridge. So for this project, when you hear us referring to the structure as a bridge, just note that it is technically a culvert or a larger pipe. In this slide, you can see the pipe going under the roadway. The pipe invert is the lowest point at the bottom of the culvert, and the ends of the culvert are usually supported by head walls, end walls, and wing walls to help retain the surrounding embankment fill. And wing walls also help to control grade elevations and can help prevent scour and soil erosion. So at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Tom Beckman from BL, who will discuss the existing condition of the bridge and the proposed design and scope of work.
Thank you, Brianna. Now, our existing bridge was constructed in 1955, and it consists of a 100-foot long, 72-inch asphalt-coated corrugated metal pipe. Route 165 in this location consists of 12-foot vehicle travel lanes with 8-foot shoulders in each directions. Both sides of the roadway at the bridge location are protected by guide rail, and there are overhead utilities along the north side of the road. Approximately 4,200 vehicles per day use Route 165, and that is based on the 2024 Connecticut DOT counts. So we got some photos of our existing roadway here. So this first photo is looking eastbound along Route 165. The cones are giving us an approximate location of the culvert. And you can see here again those 12-foot travel lanes and 8-foot shoulders in each direction with the guide rail and our utilities running along the north side of the road. This photo on the right, similar location. We are looking westbound. You can see those same cones again. And now our utilities have just shifted to the right. Again, you can see nice, good condition roadway here. Few photos of the structure. So top left photo here is looking upstream from the bridge. This is south in this particular site. So you can see a nice clean watercourse here. A photo in our top right is the inlet elevation. So you can see that culvert pipe, our wing walls, and our head wall. With our roadway beyond and the guide rail up there, and you can see that cone for a little placement to the previous photos. bottom left photo is going to be our outlet elevation. So this is, again, kind of looking south through the culvert pipe you can see here with our westbound travel lane above. Again, we have our wing walls for the structure and our end wall here. And then finally, this photo in the bottom right is looking downstream or north in this particular circumstance. So you can see this river widens out pretty wide again. Project purpose and need. Based on the March 26, 2025 inspection report conducted on the structure, the pipe is in serious condition. This is due to the asphalt coating missing with heavy laminar rust, thinning of the steel with perforations, as well as a sag in the middle of the culvert. Additionally noted is a crack in the concrete headwall. So we'll go through a couple photos here showing you that condition. So top right, we can see that crack in the headwall right through here. That is something to be addressed. Bottom left photo is our culvert. You can see along the water line here, you can see where that nice black coating that's on the top of the pipe is removed, and you can see rust through there. So that is typical through the culvert section and difficult to see, but there is a minor sag in the middle of this pipe here. And then that final photo on the bottom right is looking at one of those thinning locations that resulted in perforations into the steel pipe. So that is some of the condition which is going to be addressed by the project. So our proposed project is going to be replacing that existing corrugated metal pipe with a box culvert. As such, there are some differences in the components from those introduced to you before, and we're just going to take that opportunity to help go through those here before we get into the design. So similar to our pipe culvert, we do have those wing walls again, our head walls and end walls, as well as the cutoff wall. As noted previously, that is to help support the roadway embankment. It also helps prevent that undermining, scour, and erosion from the watercourse as it travels through the culvert pipe. And in this case, we again have the box culvert here. So that is now, it's going to have the similar use as the pipe, which is going to be conveying the watercourse and supporting the roadway above. And as opposed to the metal pipe, these are typically constructed of precast concrete, which will aid in the speed of the installation. And then as we go above the box culvert, you can see we have the backfill and then the roadway section above, and we get our guide rail here with our nice vegetated embankment. So what is our plan here? So the plan is, as noted previously, to replace the existing corrugated metal pipe with a 18-foot by 7-foot concrete box culvert, which is shown in orange in the middle of the screen here. As part of that, we are going to replace those end walls and wing walls on both sides of the structure, and we're going to have some natural stream bed material installed to work with that nice wide watercourse that we see coming into the structure on both sides. As part of the installation, part of the roadway, approximately 150 feet here, shown in yellow, will be have full depth reconstruction as part, which will be needed for the installation of the box culvert, with some mill and overlay on both ends of the project, just to tie into the existing pavement. So now we have a section view, so you can kind of think of this as if we took our roadway and sliced it like a piece of cake to help with everything here. So above us, we have Route 165. Again, we're going to maintain that 12-foot travel lane and 8-foot shoulders in each direction. We will have that backfill below, and then we will have our culvert pipe installed. You can see our end wall, our head wall and wing wall, end wall in this photo here will be constructed on a new base of granular fill, and this culvert will be sunk into the earth a little deeper than our existing metal pipe, and it will be filled with natural stream bed material, tying into some of that happening on the approaches for both the inlet and outlet. Now we have the elevation view. So this is similar to some of those photos where we're looking at the inlet. So this would be looking north towards Route 165 in the background. So you can see we have our nice wide 18-foot by 7 box culvert here, which is going to convey our water course. We have our wing walls, our head walls with some fencing along the top of those. These are sunk into the ground. Just is going to allow us to bury that structure, which is going to help convey the water course there, but also allow for that natural stream bed material shown in purple here to be installed through the culvert. All right, how is this going to be constructed? So the contractor is going to have to create access roads to allow them access from Route 165 above to the water course below. So they will do that at both locations for the outlet as well as the, inlet as well as the outlet in both locations, which will require opening of the guide rail along westbound Route 165, where additional temporary sand barrel protection will be installed, as well as anti-tracking pad to keep that sediment material off our roadway and on the access road. So this is what the majority of the project will be, to allow the contractor access again to that waterway below, allow them to do a lot of the work. But ultimately, the project will require a short detour of approximately 2 to 4 weeks to allow for removal of the existing culvert pipe, as well as installation of the new box culvert. This detour has been coordinated with representatives of the town, emergency services, as well as the school district. And while it is a nice detour length going on here along Route 165, Route 2, bringing us back down to Route 164, which is ultimately going to bring us back up to Route 165 to the project site. It is a 13-mile detour. And again, it has been coordinated with town officials. Couple other items to bring up here are going to be our utilities. As I noted previously, there are aerial utilities in the project area, and they are going to require it is anticipated that there is going to require some sort of relocation or support during construction. Those utilities are Eversource Electric, Frontier Communications, Crown Castle Fiber, and Comcast. The project will require environmental permits for this, and those include the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Pre-Construction Notification, Section 404, as well as the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Pre-Construction Notification, Section 401, and the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Individual Inland Wetlands and Watercourses. The Section 106 for the project has been completed and concluded that there are no historic properties affected. Temporary easements are anticipated to be required at both the inlet and outlet for grading and construction activities, and there are no permanent property impacts anticipated. And with that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Kathleen Erickson with the department's right-of-way department to go through the right-of-way process.
Right. Thank you, Tom. So again, my name is Kathleen Erickson, and I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights of Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring property rights that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. So I'll just be giving you a brief overview of what the acquisition process looks like. Before I get further into that, though, I do want to mention that the property impacts for this project are still being finalized, so they could change as the design progresses. Also, any property rights that are acquired are done so in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. And next slide, please. So the right-of-way acquisition process begins once the project reaches a development milestone and all of the property impacts have been determined. At that point, each affected property owner will receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, as well as a property map depicting the exact property rights to be acquired. You can see on the screen here just a sample of what the property maps look like. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights, which will be used to create an offer of just compensation. The property owner will receive the offer in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with them to discuss the project, their specific property impacts, and the offer itself. The property owner will be given a reasonable amount of time to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations. And then once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all necessary documents in order to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. Now, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation with the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner would then have 6 months to file an appeal if they felt the state's offer was inadequate. I do want to note, though, that the property owner will be able to withdraw the money that's deposited in the court at any time. I also want to note that the state will only be acquiring the property rights that are necessary in order to complete this project. But if there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna to continue on.
Thanks, Kathleen. This slide shows our estimated project cost and schedule. Please note we're very early in the design process and these may change as design progresses. We're currently anticipating a construction cost of $3.1 million, which will be paid for with 80% federal and 20% state funds. No funding is anticipated from the town of Preston at this time. Construction is anticipated to begin in spring 2029 and complete in fall of that same year. The schedule and costs are preliminary and subject to the availability of funding. This concludes the formal presentation portion of tonight's meeting. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jennifer Usher of BL, who will be the MC for the Q&A portion.
Thank you very much, Brianna. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Usher, and as Brianna mentioned, I will be serving as tonight's MC for our Q&A session. Just would like to take a moment to thank everyone for attending tonight's presentation. Really, the purpose of this meeting is to engage the public, give everyone an opportunity to ask any questions, perhaps relay any concerns you may have. So with that being said, just a reminder, there are several options for you to get in touch with the project team. The first is by email, which you see there on your screen, DOT project 0113-0113 @ct.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. We do ask that you reference project 113-113 in your voice message. That'll ensure it gets to the correct project team. And then last but not least, and probably our preferred method of communication that is only available during tonight's session is using the Zoom Q&A. Please just note, as I think Brianna had mentioned earlier in our presentation, is that we will get to everyone's questions. We will not close out the session until we've had a chance or given everyone a chance to ask questions or post any comments they may have. But just keep in mind that yours may be in a queue, so you may not see it quite right away. Once questions have been answered, those will also be posted, but questions that have yet to be answered will not be posted until then. And then again, you have our project webpage up there at portal.ct.gov/DOT Preston 0113-0113. You can visit that for more information about the project, either during tonight's session or after. And with that, we'll get going, I believe, on the questions, although I don't see we have any questions coming in. And just as a reminder, you will have to use the Q&A, not the chat, or and we don't have the raise your hand option. So you'll just have to put, because I do see it looks like someone's got their hand raised. You'll just have to put that chat or question or comment you have into the Q&A. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. And actually, could we just go to the Q&A slide just to show everyone again how to use that? Sorry, yeah, we have that on the beginning there. It's a little bit more detail, hopefully.
And this is Brianna again. I was just going to add, because I know even on our end, some of the Zoom things look different now. So, for example, like on our end, the Q&A tool is hidden actually. So if that's a reason why you can't find it for some reason, if you click, there's like a circle with 3 dots in it that says more, it may be hiding in there. So also noting that as well.
Yeah, valid point. Looks like Zoom did another update on us. And if you're not seeing the menu too, just hover towards, I would assume, the bottom of your screen and the menu should be popping up for you. Oh, looks like that helped. Okay, so it looks like we have our first question. So let's see. Douglas Fox is asking, what are the properties that we are assuming will be affected with regards to ED? I'm assuming he means eminent domain. And let's see, who would be the best person to take that question? I'm going to hand that over to Thomas Beckman with BL Companies.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And I'm just bringing myself to the presentation here to the point, which is going to show you our anticipated property impacts. Okay, so the property to the north of the culvert and the property to the south of the culvert, adjacent to these access roads, have these little areas shown here. Those are our current anticipated easement needs here. These are temporary and would be restored to the property at the end of that, and possibly Kathleen could help add that in there. Both of these were owned, I believe it was by a Kleeman Trust or LLC. Different owners for each one, but very similar. Just Kathleen, don't know if you wanted to add anything else to the other comment.
Yeah, I'll just add in, like you said, what we're showing as the current owners, there was a Kleeman LLC and George Kleeman, a family trust, were the owners on each side. And then again, these, as mentioned earlier, are temporary construction easements, so they are only encumbering the properties during the project. Once the project is complete, they will be extinguished, so they only exist for that one construction season.
All right, thank you both, Tom and Kathleen. And it looks like we've got another question coming in. So this is from, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce everyone's name correctly, but this is coming in from James Jansowitz. And they're asking, while the official detour is to use Route 2, the local residents know about the Long Society shortcut. Absolutely. And just asking, has any plans been proposed to provide additional police coverage to keep traffic controlled during that 4-week shutdown or detour? I am going to hand that over to Brianna Rataco with Connecticut DOT to respond.
Thanks, Jennifer. And hi, James. I know we emailed back and forth earlier today, so thanks for coming tonight. So we actually, in our early coordination with the town of Preston, did, when we were running the detour and everything by them, they did make a suggestion to add some additional signage to deter people from using Long Society Road. So that is something that will be incorporated into our design to help deter people from using that shortcut, as you refer to it.
Thank you very much, Brianna. All right, and our next question is coming in from Douglas Fox and asking, will this increase any watershed, especially around Bates Pond? And Tom Beckman with BL Companies will respond.
Thank you. Great question. And just to be clear, like this project is not going to be changing the flow through under the roadway, which is our intent here. So what we are doing is replacing the existing pipe with a new box culvert through this location. So not anticipating that is going to create any impacts to the watershed as you have in your question there.
And I'll just add a little bit to Tom's response there. So I think, Tom, can you, I forget, but is the existing structure hydraulically adequate today? I don't know if you could.
It is,
It
yes.
is. Okay. So yeah. And so we're just maintaining that hydraulic adequacy under Route 165 with the box culvert, but giving a little bit more width, which is more of a, I'll say, deep Army Corps requirement. All right. And let's see, we've got any other questions coming in? Here a little bit more time, and as we're well, we're not going to wait too long. So we have our next question is from S. Bosco asking, I think there is an old mill dam on the north side, but it doesn't look like it will be part of any changes. Yes, question mark. I do not believe we are familiar with that old mill dam, so I'm going to say that's outside of our project limits, unless, Tom, you want to tell me differently?
No, I don't have anything else to add to what you noted there. As noted in the permit slide, the department does do a review of historic properties for this project. That was completed, and it was noted that no historic properties were affected by the project. So anticipate, as Jennifer noted, that old mill dam is outside of the project limits.
Thank you very much. All right. Give everyone some time. And just as a reminder, a few different ways you can contact us. It looks like everyone has kind of figured out the Q&A, even with the recent Zoom updates. So that is good. But you can also get in touch with us by phone or by email. And just a reminder, the phone and email will actually be open for another 2 weeks, actually until April 30th. So should you have any additional questions or comments that you can think of after this meeting, by all means, feel free to use one of those avenues to get in touch with the project team, and someone will get back to you once they've received that and reviewed it. Yeah, I was just going to ask you to go back to thank you. Reading my mind. All right, and we have another question coming in from Douglas Fox asking, I understand that additional signage would be added to Long Society Road. However, this is not going to prevent 4,300 vehicles from using the shortcut. Are there additional plans to enforce? So I think I'll take the beginning part of that question. So again, Douglas, we've been working with the town, and I think really what the state can do is certainly sign the appropriate detours. 4,300 vehicles in that daily traffic. A lot of those, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some of those are also commercial, I'll say non-local traffic. So they're more likely to follow the signed state detours. It's going to really be more of the local traffic. And again, the town was pretty adamant that they would work with the state to prevent, I think, Long Society Road being used as kind of thoroughfare during this closure. And I don't know if Brianna or Tom or anyone else wants to add anything to that.
Can add that as the approaches into Long Society Road are definitely not convenient for large vehicles, as Jennifer stated. So that state detour is going to keep those large vehicles off Long Society Road.
And I mean, I will also say that when the project goes to construction too, it's going to be with Connecticut DOT's district. And if there's any sort of issues, I would say during construction, district would be the ones that would end up kind of handling that. But it's not to say that there wouldn't be changes during construction should, traffic become so cumbersome. There's certainly always an option if it makes sense to bring in, town or state police to help alleviate any of that traffic. But at this time, we're hoping that the signage will essentially take care of that.
And just to add, so it's signage specifically for deterring vehicles onto Long Society. It's in addition to the typical state detour signage. So it's kind of like an add-on to that.
Yes, valid. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Brianna. Good point. And while we wait for some more questions or comments to come in, just to kind of remind everyone that there is a post-meeting survey. So if you have a few minutes after the meeting, we would greatly appreciate it. I did post it in the webinar chat. There's a link there, along with a link to the Title VI and the webpage, and some information about where the project email is and voicemail. So you can use that. But if you have a few minutes to take the survey, we would appreciate it. We use that to kind of garner feedback and improve meetings going forward. Again, we'll just give it a few more minutes here. Our comment period will be open until April 30th. All right, we have someone else who's chimed in. Here we go. Daniel Candler is asking, will there be any impact to the coverage of Eversource, Comcast, etc. While during construction? I'll be able to answer that. So as part of our due diligence and I'll say preliminary project task is we do reach out to all the utilities and discuss with them, to determine if they have facilities that are in the project site. We do have several aerial facilities, kind of all of the ones that you named. So we do not anticipate that there's going to be any disconnection of service for any lengthy period of time. We will need to relocate them temporarily and then move them back after the project. But that's a very quick, turnover. So shouldn't be, any major interruptions to your service for any of those utilities. They're usually pretty quick about it. And it looks like we're also just, we do have a team member who is actively checking voicemail and email to make sure that we aren't getting any questions or comments in there. It doesn't look like we have anything. So I think we are pretty good with that, but want to make sure we give everyone time. One thing I will say while we're just kind of waiting for some questions, so completely understand that the concerns with the detour and, potential additional local traffic coming onto Long Society Road. The good news is that with this particular detour and the accelerated bridge construction, also known as ABC, is that it is a lot quicker, so it's a lot less impact, time-wise, to the community. So there might be a little bit more impact, but it'll be greatly reduced as far as the timeline goes. And then, of course, DOT will work with the contractor to expedite that work as much as possible so that we can, really limit the time that this detour is actually in place. We certainly do want to work with the citizens and, residents that are on that road to accommodate, making sure that they have access, obviously, but they're not overwhelmed by the local traffic that's going through. So we'll do what we can with the signage. And then, like I said, if there's additional, I'll say additional measures that need to be taken, those can always be implemented by the Connecticut DOT district if deemed appropriate. So we'll also put out information ahead of time so that everyone's aware of the detour so that they'll hopefully opt to find alternate routes. And something else to keep in mind, that 4,300 vehicles a day does sound like a lot. I can understand that. It's actually not in the grand scheme of things. When you think about, other roads, I mean, that's more or less kind of on the lower side of things. And on top of that, people that will be traveling that road will also find alternate routes that are just nowhere near the project. They'll try to stay away from it, knowing that there's going to be, in their mind, a lot of traffic there and, detour issues. So they would rather try to find alternate routes. So that'll be part of what we'll do is try to get information out. We'll certainly convey that over to the town of Preston so that they can put it on their webpage, or if they have an e-blast system, they can send it out, and they'll also go into newspapers. Oh, some questions coming in. So Douglas Fox has a follow-up question asking, how confident are we in the timeline since historically it has taken 7 years to complete bridge projects in this area? And I'm going to assume he means the timeline for the detour. And if you could just confirm that, that would be great. So, let's see, Tom, I'm going to probably hand that question off to you. I'm not familiar with other projects. This project team, as far as I know, has not done anything in Preston, at least that I can remember. But this is really what we're doing is a precast concrete box culvert. That in and of itself is something that is essentially pre-made, if you will, then delivered to the site and then assembled, much like Legos. I'm probably oversimplifying it a lot here, but that's very much like what it's like, which allows us to do this very quickly. Keep in mind that there is work that needs to be done prior to the box culvert being installed and after, but that won't necessarily require the detour. That can be done kind of off to the side. And Tom, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like we did get an explanation of the entire project, not just a detour. I'll kind of hit this from two aspects that I think you could be coming from. The first would be, how confident are we that construction is going to begin in spring of 2029 and be completed in fall of 2029? Well, I'll start with the first one, being construction started. This is project we have been through similar projects like this with our team. We are confident what we are going to bring it to what the department calls final design plans, allowing for the construction season to be in 2029. But we do have the caveat in here, as noted, the schedule is preliminary and is subject to the availability of funding. So there may or may not be changes to that when the project actually goes to construction, shovels in the ground. The second part of, do we anticipate it being completed in fall and one construction season? Again, at this point, we are pretty preliminary in the design when we're bringing this to you. We just got our designer on board and they are starting work. But based on the scope of work being primarily the replacement of the culvert with the box culvert, with limited utilities here being that one utility line along the north side of the project is what we would have to move to create potential construction clearance. There is a good degree of confidence that we will get this completed in that single season. And similarly, that detour range is 2 to 4 weeks. So, again, we're preliminary here. We're being conservative. So that's why we're given that range of 2 to 4. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for the detail, Tom. I appreciate that. Yeah, those are all really good points. And yeah, so I think like you said, the start of spring 29, is all subject to the availability of funding. But I think the overall construction season with the ABC construction being a part of this really does put us at a pretty high confidence level that this is kind of an in and out and fairly quick project. Let's see. We have another question that has come in from James Jansowitz asking, while this is several years out, if this can be planned for summer months, this will improve the safety of the quote unquote shortcut. Can respond to that. So we are certainly looking to have the detour occur during the summer months. That is the plan right now. Generally, construction season begins on April 1st and it ends on November 30th. So the heart, I'll say, of the construction season falls right into those summer months. What's really nice about that is that we don't have to worry about school buses and that type of traffic. Additionally, obviously, those are the warmer months, so it's easier to do construction at that point. So I think your request can certainly kind of be fulfilled. We will avoid, obviously, any major holidays such as Independence Day with the detour. We wouldn't want to have that in place. So we'll work around those. And then, of course, if there's any, I'll say, town or municipal events, we'll coordinate with them too so that we can try to work around those as well. I'll mark that. Thank you. All right. And checking just to see if we have any emails or voicemails coming in. And it looks like, no, it looks like everything's been coming in on the Zoom Q&A. So that's good. And it looks like we had a pretty good turnout. So again, just want to thank everyone for taking some time out of their evening to join us and just kind of learn about this project and ask questions. It seems like we had a pretty active audience, which we really appreciate. A lot goes into these presentations and making sure that the communication gets out there, and we want to give everyone an opportunity to kind of weigh in. I will say some feedback we've gotten is, well, it seems really early to be doing this public info meeting when, the project is several years out. Just some background on that. It is a requirement for us to do this for a part of our federal funding that is received to construct these projects, as well as design them. But in addition to that, if we get feedback earlier on, it's easier for us to kind of incorporate that into the design and construction versus if we're doing it, later in the design process. So that's why we like to have these, fairly early. But again, you'll be notified prior to the detour being put in place that, again, through those kind of channels, whether it's social media, through the town, or newspapers. So, and I was just asking the project team, because I feel like we've worked on some recent projects with box culverts, but yeah, we actually had one in Plymouth that was 24 feet wide. So I think that's a little bit wider than what we're showing here. Is that correct, Tom? And that was completed in one season as
Right.
well. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, we got an 18-foot here.
All right. I know we also have a couple other projects that are going to be incorporating box culverts. I'll be honest. I mean, Connecticut DOT, I think, does a great job at trying to implement ABC or accelerated bridge construction whenever possible. It's not always possible, but sometimes you need like additional rights of way. We certainly don't want to impact people if we don't have to. But certainly when it is feasible, they will kind of, steer that way. So using precast elements is a huge, huge time saver because, like I said, they're just delivered to the site. They're kind of like Legos. You're just putting it all together. And that part's very quickly. You're not waiting for concrete to cure. You're not waiting for that to happen so that you can put the traffic back over it. It's just all very fast. So let's see. Do we have any emails or voicemails? Nope, nothing there. I'll give it just a couple more minutes for some questions to come in. Again, if you have a few minutes after this presentation and you can take that post-meeting survey, the link is in the webinar chat. We would appreciate it. And the comment period is open until April 30th. So by all means, and if you had any neighbors or, if there's business owners or other residents in Preston that were unable to join in tonight's meeting, we'd greatly appreciate if you would let them know that they can access the recorded video through YouTube just by going to the project website and they'll find a link there. And then again, just letting them know that they can certainly post their comments. Oh, and it looks like, that's interesting. James Janowicz is telling us that nothing is showing in the chat. And I'm just going to ask James, the chat that I'm asking you to look at is not the question and answer. The way Zoom does this, they have a Q&A chat, I guess we'll call it, but then they have a webinar chat that should be separate. And it, again, should be kind of at that bottom of the menu. You should see a chat function there. So hopefully that is visible.
And
And
it
if
looks
anyone else
visible to
that's in
everyone that I can see.
I'm sorry?
I have it set to what they can see right now, and I'm seeing everything you put in there.
Okay. Yeah, and if maybe just another audience member or attendee could verify that they're able to see it, we would appreciate it, because certainly if that's not visible, then we would want to address that. But I will say the information for the email and project webpage is up on the screen now. And Tom, perhaps if you could just go to one of the beginning slides to show that where the survey link
Sure.
is, just so that they can see that, that would be helpful. And I believe there was.
And we did get confirmation from an audience member that they are able to see the chat.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Just go back to this one, and then this way they can
One
grab
more,
it.
no, two more. There we go.
Right there, perfect. And then you have the QR code too, so you can scan that with your smartphone, just using the camera app. As soon as you kind of put that up there, it should direct you right to that web link, and you can take the survey there. Oh, good, we have that. All right. It doesn't look like we have any other questions that are coming in, so let's just give it another minute or two, make sure we have nothing from voicemail, nothing from email, and we should be able to wrap up this evening. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Please keep in mind you can reach out to the project team using that email. It'll be open for another 2 weeks along with the voicemail. And we got a thank you. Well, we appreciate the thank yous, absolutely. So we understand this. The project is it's good, it's great, it needs to be done, but we aren't. I'll say that we understand the fact that it is going to still have some impacts to the neighbors, and we just try to limit those and reduce those as much as possible. So again, with that ABC, that kind of helps us do that. But we certainly understand that this will have some impact on you. There's no doubt. So. All right. And with that, I think we are good. Thank you again, and everyone have a good evening, and we look forward to bringing this project to construction and getting it done. All right. Have a good evening.